Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John, and in this series of videos I will be giving 31 film recommendations across 31 days. I'll be giving brief, spoiler-free synopsis and highlighting a particular scene that has made this one of my personal favourite films to watch in October. There will be something funny, something spooky. It won't always be Halloween, but there will be certainly some scary stuff in there. So come along with me as I count down my 31 days of Halloween. In 2020's Host, 6 friends hire a medium to hold a séance via Zoom during 2020's lockdown. Some take it more seriously than others, however, and when a prank backfires, they inadvertently anger a demonic spirit. As part of my 31 days of Halloween, when I compiled my list, whilst we will always inevitably hit some of the Halloween films that will be expected on anybody's 31 days of Halloween, I didn't want to just do 31 horror film, Halloween films, because inevitably there's so many of those out there. You want to do something a little bit different. So one of the early tasks I set myself was to have a healthy mix of Halloween, standard Halloween movies and non-Halloween movies, but could fit within the October spooky season. So if you've been following along, firstly thank you, but also I'm hoping you're getting a nice little bit of mix. Obviously it's early days, still early days, so the Halloween hasn't quite started to ramp up. It will do, but that's how we ended up when I sat down to come up with my idea. Okay, you've got a batch of Halloween films, then you want a zombie film, a serial killer film, a ghost film, this film. One thing that I wanted was a seance movie. Now, obviously, seance films traditionally are teenagers with a board game messing around, or Victorian melodrama. I wanted to do something different, and to some this may not be different, but I wanted to use 2020's Host because it is, as far as I'm concerned, and me and my wife, we watched it last night in preparation to record this. For me, I actually think it is one of the very best and most real depictions of a seance. Outside of silly board games and people dressed up as Victorians saying what ho ghosts and all this kind of stuff, this is real. It took place in a period of time where all of us, everybody watching this, no matter how old you are, at this point in time, unless you're under 3, of course, this film took place in a time that is culturally relevant to everybody who is watching this. The 2020 global pandemic, we all had to endure it. No matter your opinion of it, we were all there. The lockdowns were in full function and everybody was at home. We were confused, people were working from home, trying to figure things out, having to queue for the supermarkets, fighting over toilet paper and, Italian sauces, all kinds of over-the-top stuff was taking place. And right in the middle of it, the majority of people, certainly office workers and people in the education system at the time, were being forced to acclimatise themselves to this new piece of technology called Zoom. Now, today, in 2024, Zoom has actually started to get a little bit out of date thanks to Microsoft Teams, but Zoom came along at a time, arguably, when it was needed the most. The country needed its connection, we couldn't physically interact, so we needed to interact with each other. But Zoom has become a commonplace of our world now. It's been around for 3-4 years. There's no sign of this kind of networking disappearing thanks to hybrid working from home, etc. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I didn't want to focus in on a particular scene with Host. Like Ghost Watch, it's very dangerous to talk about specific scenes in Host without completely spoiling it. So one of the reasons that I want to recommend this film, and I'm going to take this little bit of time to talk about it, is I love the idea that if you watch this film, try and put yourself back into 2020. The country is in complete shutdown. There is this new piece of technology that we have all been forced, no one asked us to, but we've all been forced to learn, which is Zoom. Some of us never got the hang of it, some of us loved it. There was filters, there was backgrounds, there was muting, there was putting people on hold, there was emergency call rooms, welcome people into the room, you having to physically let someone into a digital environment. There was so much technology around us, it was so confusing, and we all had a thimble of time to learn it. So this film comes along in July 2020, right in the height of the first lockdown, and it takes the Zoom call and it completely spins it round at us and provides what I consider to be one of the very best and genuinely scary seance movies. It's funny because I think a lot of people don't think of it as a seance film. They say, oh, it's just a scary film involving Zoom. But it's not. And again, going back to the pandemic, I think there's a lot of people out there who can probably relate to this Zoom call which you're going to witness. We were all doing all these weird cliches and strange things to keep our sanity during the lockdown, making banana bread. Joe Wicks was teaching us to do things. We were doing all this stuff which we'd never have to do before because the country had shut down. So in Zoom, these 6 friends, 5 girls, 1 man, decide that they're going to hold a digital seance. One of them has done a couple before and they've had no real results, but they've come up with this great idea that they can't be together, they're clearly best friends for life, they're going to hold this digital conference call with a seance. So the seance person attends, and the first thing they have to do, as I say, is let her in the room. And again, without going into too much of a spoiler territory and just going through the first few minutes kind of thing, the first thing she says, of course, is that nothing can harm you. You have to be very respectful. Do not disrespect the spirits. Do not do anything wrong that will cause trouble. Now, one of the things I really enjoy about Host is I always find the idea of the seance leader, the Derek Acora style characters, they tend to be a little over the top, and there's even a bit of fun in this film about the fact that she kept saying the astral plane. But she opens up the seance begins, things start to happen, and then perhaps arguably the most realistic, horrifying thing that happens in this film is the leader of the seance is actually disconnected from the Zoom call. Her Wi-Fi goes down and she effectively leaves these 6 people to their own devices for a good portion of time. The problem is that one of them has not been necessarily respectful to the Zoom seance call, and as a result has perhaps welcomed something onto the call that should not be there, some malevolent entity that is not happy or is using the disrespect to channel itself via the call. I'm not going to say anything else about the plot. What I would say is it is genuinely scary. It has some great jump scares, things set up at the beginning pay off later. All the characters are very realistic. Every single person on that call is a very genuine performance. The majority of them, I believe, are British. It is a British film. I cannot say anything bad about the cast in any way. Sometimes you do get a couple of like Deadwood people in these kind of horror films. Everyone in this film has clearly been very carefully selected. They're taking it seriously. The use of digital effects and practical effects in the film for the jump scares, taking certain features of Zoom, which was again relatively new and quite frightening to a lot of people, and as I say, using that against the viewer is just fantastic. This was the first lockdown Zoom horror film, so if you've watched a few more since and you're kind of like, meh, these aren't very good, I strongly recommend you go and watch Host. It is free on Shudder, or I'm sure you can pick it up relatively cheap on Blu-ray now. It's a fantastic time. It's one of those films that I genuinely, again, recommend that as the haunting season starts to ramp up a little bit, if you're meeting with friends and you want to have that evening in and none of them have seen it, it will grip you very quickly. It feels so real is the wonderful bit about it. And unlike a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th, I've never been to a camp where a serial killer is. I've never fallen asleep and had a dream demon. I've never hit any of those cliches. But I was around during the lockdown and I was aware and having to use Zoom on a daily basis. So actually, the idea that this could happen, it can get in your head quite well. So again, the most realistic or the most true to life depiction of a seance in modern culture is this film Host. I strongly recommend it. I really hope you enjoy it. 1 hour, quick and simple, done. Turn the lights off, crank it up loud, get some friends, have a great time, and until next time, stay scared.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Something just touched my neck.